NFC Beast. This the only show tackling the topics that matter the most to our NFC fan bases and bringing on our talented crew to break it all down. In New York, it's Lou Albanese. In Dallas, Sam Gannon is in the building, and in Philadelphia, Breland Moore joins us as well. Here today, we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and their climb potentially to the top of the NFC East, the New York Giants and them sinking below. But we will begin this conversation in Madrid, Spain, and the Washington Commanders. The Commanders dropped their sixth game in a row, falling to 3-8 on the season. Jayden Daniels out injured, so that is going to bring us to the question, and Sam, we will come to you first. Jayden Daniels potentially coming back after the bye. Should the Washington Commanders play their star quarterback?
But the fact that he's now suffered 3 different injuries this season, when you talk about the elbow, the knee, and the hamstring, you know, they're not going to contend in this division this year. So I don't know that they should risk that with their quarterback, who's the future of this franchise. So if I were them, I would play it more on the cautious side. I don't know that I would bring him back. I understand he's a competitor and wants to be out there, but with the injury history this season, I would stay on the more cautious side.
Look, Sam, I got to tell you what, in speaking with Washington Commanders fans here in the DMV, many of them feel the same way that you do. They say protect our quarterback, put him in bubble wrap. I actually disagree. I think that he needs the reps. I think that this team needs him. I think that a football locker room goes off of if you can play, you do play. Breland, what do you say?
Yeah, I think I'm in the middle. I absolutely understand Sam's point, but to your point, Chad, I think when you are the leader of this team and you are the franchise quarterback and you're healthy enough to go, I think you do have to set a standard. Just because maybe the coaching, and I'm not saying that this is actually the case, but you know, if a coaching staff or the front office loses the locker room, that's one thing, but you don't want to risk that as a quarterback. So I do understand from a leadership perspective if he wants to get back in there. If it's safe enough, if he's not gonna, you know, aggravate something, I say, yeah, if you're healthy, you should be out there playing.
Yeah, and to that point, in hearing from head coach Dan Quinn, he said that no final decision has been made on Jayden Daniels yet. But Lou, on top of Jayden, could it get Terry McLaurin coming back as well? Even if it's not for the playoffs this year, this could be building towards next season.
Well, the thing I'd worry about with Jayden Daniels is this is injury number 3. You know, and that's a constant. He seems to be getting hurt more and more this year. I'd be a little more concerned about that as much as rushing him back. McLaurin, they need him. He's a big-time receiver. Daniels has missed him all year. But I'd be worried more about the fact that Jayden Daniels had 3 separate injuries this year, and you start worrying about the style of offense they play. He's not a big guy, and is this the right way to play him for fear of you don't want another RG3 down the road?
The fears of RG3. Again, that is something that echoes every household of burgundy and gold faithful here. Okay, NFC Beast, we go 2 up, 2 down on the return of Jayden Daniels. We'll move now to Philadelphia, where the Eagles won again last week, albeit scoring only 16 points. Breland Moore, can your Birds compete for another Super Bowl with the offense playing like this?
Defense wins championships, right? No, I am very concerned. I'm not dismissing the concerns on the offensive side of the ball here. I am very concerned with what Kevin Patullo has been able to piece together. It is very reminiscent of 2023. However, the dismantling of the Eagles in 2023 was because they had a terrible defense. That's no longer the case. This defense may just be one of the, if not the best in the National Football League, continuously just dominating these teams that we consistently hear about that are in the Super Bowl picture. The Lions, the Packers, my goodness, both of those games, this defensive unit has done phenomenally well. I do have concerns, but I still think looking at this playoff picture right now, the Eagles, even if they're winning poorly, can still get the job done. And that's a little miraculous to me, but it is what it is.
Sam, I feel like we're having this conversation every single week. What's wrong with the Birds? Are the Eagles on the verge of falling apart? However, they keep winning games. Is this enough?
Right now it's enough. I mean, I agree with Breland too. I think it's a little bit of a concern, but when you consider the fact that they're on a 4-game win streak, they're 8-2, their last 2 wins have come against really, really good teams. They're still finding a way. I think come the playoffs, guys, that teams always take it up to another level, another tier, and so I would be a little concerned about the offense and the fact that they haven't been able to score more than 17 points in 4 of their last 6 games. But until they start losing games and putting together a losing streak, that's when I'll come on here and say that I'm truly concerned.
All right, Lou, I get it. They keep winning games. They win seemingly every single week. They find ways to get it done. But I believe that there's a problem there in Philadelphia. I believe it's a big problem. And if you're talking about making the playoffs, sure, they'll do that. But I don't believe that this team can contend for a Super Bowl with an offense that's scoring 10 points, 16 points, 18 points a game.
I agree. I mean, you have to score. I know defense wins titles, but you still have to score. And when the competition grows and the games are more important, you cannot have this dysfunction. I've never seen anything like this. You know, I saw a thing where Kevin Patullo was up for a head coaching job. I'm not sure he keeps his present job. I mean, I don't understand this. I mean, this has A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Saquon. Come on. This offense should be doing much better than this, and he's got to figure it out, and he's even saying he's not sure why.
Breland, do you, being on the ground, do you have more of a sense of why? Again, we belabor this conversation, but is there more of a sense of what the heck is going on with this Philadelphia offense?
There is a little bit of confusion, you know, because yes, they should be operating. Once again, this is the same running theme that I've been parroting, I feel like, throughout the course of this entire season. The offensive line is not healthy. Once again, Lane Johnson now out 4 to 6 weeks, and you cannot replace Pro Bowl and all-pro caliber players with your depth guys. Yeah, I mean, no offense to Brett Toth or Fred Johnson, but they are not, you know, Cam Jurgens and Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata. And when you do not have consistent play from your offensive line, which I feel like throughout the course of our show's history, they've always been so solid. And now that they're not, I think that's really, really doing a number on the rest of the offense. There's other things, of course, but I definitely think that's a huge part of it.
100%. That Philadelphia Eagles offensive line has traditionally been, for the course of this show, one of the best in the NFL, not playing like it this year. Okay, from one NFC East team that cannot score points to one that puts up points every single weekend, seemingly the Dallas Cowboys, Sam Gannon. Another big-time victory over the Raiders out there leads their schedule up to their record, I should say, to 4-5-1 on the year. I've been on the Cowboys bandwagon all season long. Sometimes that has looked silly. Is it time to take the Cowboys as a serious contender?
I'm not going to say serious contender yet,
Sure.
guys, because I know people are saying, you know, the Raiders were a really bad team and they managed to beat that. They've only beaten bad teams, but as you know, wins are hard to come by in the NFL. But I will say this defense did look better. You know, Quinnen Williams had a great debut as a Cowboy, and obviously they were playing for much more than themselves on Monday night with the passing of their teammate Marshawn Nealon. So, you know, I think the offense has been great. You know, Pickens had one of his best performances, if not the best of the season, with 144 receiving yards. I think the defense looks much better than it did week 1 against the Eagles. I know we'll get to our predictions later on. I'm not going to sit here and say that I would call them a contender, but I do think that this game that we saw was their best overall performance of the season.
Lou, if you were going to put this on a chart, the arrow has to be going up for the Cowboys. Again, offensively, they've been able to do it all season long, and now with that help on the defensive side as well, and more coming back with some injured players coming back, I say, how about them Cowboys?
I agree. Let me tell you something. I've watched Quinnen Williams the last few years, and when he's motivated, he's one of the best defensive linemen in football. Now, this year, it was pretty obvious the losing was getting to him, but he seemed like a different guy the other day. With the additions they've made on defense and that duo of Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, that could be the 2 best receivers in the game. Yeah, I think you got to watch out for them. If they sneak into the playoffs, they could be dangerous.
That's what I'm talking about, Breland. So go ahead and tell them, how afraid are you of the Dallas Cowboys?
I'm not afraid of any team with a losing record. Come on now, Chad. That's ridiculous. They've beaten bad teams. They've not even won back-to-back games all season long. Come on now. Yes, the trade deadline acquisitions are great, but I'm not. If you're scared, get a dog.
That's a beautiful ending to that. Thank you for that, Breland. All right. From the Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys, as I attempt to recap, that was a great line. New York Giants, Lou, we were not in the building last week. We had the Brian Daboll firing, of course. First head coaching game for Mike Kafka. And guess what? The team blows another fourth quarter lead. Was firing Daboll midseason the right move?
Yes, and so much has gone on since we last got together. Not just him, but Dart gets hurt, and Scatterboo's playing. He becomes a wrestler. I mean, it's going crazy out here in New York. I don't quite know which one's crazier than the other. I mean, Cam is like getting all sorts of heat for wrestling, but it's like, guess what? I mean, this team is like a wrestling bear out there. It's like a sideshow.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to get rid of Dable. I mean, he's just the team. He lost the team. It was an interesting comment. Wandell Robinson said, what was the difference between him and Kafka this week? Well, there was a lot less yelling on the sidelines. Wow. And I think the yelling really caught up to this team. And I believe that it's better for Dart to develop with Kafka and then get a new head coach. And by the way, before we start worrying about changing coaches, look at Drake May in New England with Rabel. Get an experienced head coach here, and this Giant team has talent.
Well, that was going to be the question that I had was, would it have been better? You see a Jackson Dart who appears to be developing there under Daboll. People who had criticisms for Daboll, the one thing was the belief that he worked well with quarterbacks. That was my one drawback. Sam, did you believe that Daboll should have been fired mid-year?
I mean, yeah, I think when you start off a season for the third straight year, 2-8, I do think it starts with the head coach. And I do think that younger guys coming into the league like a Dart, I think they're adaptable. So I think if you're going to make a change like that, you need to do it now because he had his time. And, you know, as we know, they've also had injuries as well, which is never easy in terms of navigating a season. But I don't have a problem with the fact that, you know, they parted ways with him.
Breland, one of Brian Daboll's finest moments was when the Giants absolutely smoked the Philadelphia Eagles earlier this year. I know that you remember that game, so are you surprised that he was let go of?
No, and I mean, to build off of Sam's point, everybody's making great points here, but just to build off of that one, when you lose the locker room, young players are extremely impressionable, and when you lose the locker room and you have a bad culture already going on there, and players are quitting on each other and quitting on the team values and whatnot, you start to just breed a culture of dysfunction, and if that's happening, now, of course, I don't have boots on the ground, but the fact that the trigger was pulled this early and not, you know, at the end of the season tells me that that's probably what's going on. You gotta go.
Lou, just to follow up, when you look at that locker room from everything that you all have heard, who are the leaders of that Giants locker room right now in 2025?
Ooh, I mean, Dexter Lawrence should be a leader, but he's not having a great season. But when he speaks, they do listen. Jackson Dart, who's a rookie quarterback, actually does have their ear, but they have very few real vocal leadership type of guys, and I think it hurts them. And I think they need a veteran coach to get more out of these kids. I think a guy who has experience, someone like that, because this, you know, recycling of, you know, multiple offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, it's got to stop. They need someone who has experience because this team is too young to bring in another first-time coach.
Give me a name, Lou.
Well, you know, let's go for the moon. I'm going to say Mike Tomlin. Work out a trade, bring in Mike Tomlin, who has been on the block. People are wondering about Tomlin. I know it's one of those things, but Mike Tomlin would be a guy. If you can make a deal with the Steelers after all those years there, and if he misses the playoffs, he'd be the type of guy, it would clean it up dramatically.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to clip that one and get it out on social media. Maybe it can make it happen. Mike Tomlin to the New York Giants. All right. Coming up, we're going to talk about the dysfunction in Washington, D.C., what has been the main reason that the Commanders have underperformed, and what's next for the Dallas Cowboys post Micah Parsons. It's NFC Beast. Welcome back to NFC Beast, and now it's time to talk about something that is very traditional here in the nation's capital, and that is dysfunction. The Washington Commanders, one of the preseason picks to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, coming off of their NFC Championship journey last year, a game, Breland, that we unfortunately lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. However, things have fallen apart. 3-8 on the year right now. The playoffs just about a thing of the past. So, Bree, we'll start with you. What is most to blame for the dysfunction in D.C.?
Yeah, I think there is a myriad of different ways you can look at this, but I'm going to put my blame on the GM and the front office for the most part. You have a really aging roster with no depth. Injuries happen to every single team throughout the league. That is just a constant in the NFL. And the fact that there's no one able to step up and these aging players are just eating money and stealing money, honestly, at this point, I gotta start looking at the general manager and the front office stuff. Why not make moves near the trade deadline? I mean, nothing really made sense, and you're not setting up your roster for success. You can obviously point at the coaching staff, especially when it comes to some of those injuries, leaving Jayden Daniels in the game very long. But I think it starts at the very top with the GM and his staff.
And to tell you what, Breland, our producer here, Joey Bark, is a lifelong Washington Commanders fan, and he's over here sobbing as you really break down the autopsy here. Sam Gannon, who's to blame?
No, I agree with Breland's points there about, the front office, and, we can say similar things about the Cowboys front office and some of the decisions they've made as well. But I do think it's hard to point the finger at any one person when, your franchise quarterback, he's only played in 6 of 11 games. As you guys know, your team isn't going anywhere unless your quarterback is healthy and doing his thing. So while injuries are a part of the game and no one's going to, feel bad for you when it's your quarterback, I think that's a different ball game.
Yeah, I happen to agree with that as well. Obviously, the lack of Jayden Daniels being out there. I got to tell you all what, I'm going to say this, Terry McLaurin. It's not just Terry, but the Terry McLaurin contract situation in the offseason leading into the regular season. McLaurin not being there throughout training camp because he means so much to this franchise as a whole. So even though I'm an advocate of everybody getting their money, it's not Terry, but the way that Terry McLaurin contract situation was handled, I felt as though it put this team behind the 8 ball at the start of the season. Lou.
Listen, dysfunction, Jets and Giants. So I had the 2-1 beat. But having said all that, I agree with the front office. That's the problem. They made a big mistake with McLaurin. All teams do that. I never understand this. You're going to make a deal. We know the deal's going to get done. Why let them go all the way through camp with this BS? Sign them early. It's going to happen. The same contracts are going to be out there. It's not going to change. Do it. And just not having depth. Look at the 49ers. All their injuries. They're still in it. Depth. Injuries are not an excuse. Depth. The lack of depth. That's the reason.
All right, Adam Peters. Individuals are looking at you. So from one GM to another GM, Jerry Jones. We're looking back at that Micah Parsons trade, which at the time seemed like one of the more asinine trades that have been made in professional sports. At that time, though, Jerry Jones said that there could be a way in which this team could be better, not only in the immediate, but in the future, for trading away one of the most dominant edge rushers in all of the NFL. Sam, I got to ask you, how many games does Dallas need to win this year for Jerry to be made a truth teller?
I don't think it's about the wins this year, and I don't think it's about this season. I think time will tell in the future. And the one thing for the Cowboys is they need to nail on the draft this coming April with those picks. But, there was an improvement on Monday night, albeit against a really bad, Oakland Raiders team. But, I do think that there were a lot of people who were against, trading Micah. I still wouldn't have done it. But I think you have to see this thing play out a little bit and see if they end up squeaking into the playoffs. But I think it's more about the future than right now. So the number of wins this year isn't going to really determine if this trade was a so-called success or failure.
Lou, humor me here. Let's say that the Cowboys have an outstanding second half of the season. They make their way into the playoffs, not only make it in, but also win a playoff game. If that happens, do people begin to look at this trade differently?
Of course. I mean, if you win, you make the playoffs. You have the draft picks. Yeah. Look, the Cowboys, they know their money situation. They got money tied up in the receiver. They got money tied up with Dak Prescott. Do they sign George Pickens? There's a lot of money situations there. But I thought the Quinn and Williams deal showed you could take some of that draft capital, turn it into other players that could fit into your roster, and if they make the playoffs, then it shows that maybe Jerry knew what he was doing.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, and we'll talk about this in a moment, Breland, but I think that the bullseye is directly on the back of the Birds coming up this week. I think Dallas makes a run. Does it justify trading Micah Parsons?
No, I don't. I don't think so. And I'm fully agreeing with Sam here. Jerry's going to continue to do Jerry Jones things, okay? We've seen this time and time again throughout his history. Time will tell, and the Cowboys do need to make good decisions come the spring. Are they going to do that? It's Jerry Jones. So we'll see how it goes. But I would very much like to hold off my judgment and see how this plays out long term, just like Sam said.
All right. Well, coming up in the short term, as we alluded to, a huge game going down this weekend, Philadelphia and Dallas, as well as the Giants at Detroit. We'll discuss all of that on the NFC Beast. NFC Beast. The Washington Commanders are off this weekend. We're picking the other games. We've got the Giants and the Lions. Lou, Giants haven't looked good as of late. Can they pull this off?
In Detroit, no. Listen, they're hoping to get Jackson Dart back. I hope they don't rush this kid. I hope they sat down with this kid and taught this kid slide. But in terms of winning, look, I know the Eagles shut down the Lions, but the Giants' defense is not the Eagles' defense. I don't give them much of a chance.
Breland, the Giants have at least been competitive just about every game this season. They can beat just about anybody.
Sure, anything is possible. It's the NFL. We know that, but I don't think it's going to happen. Although I will say, if it does happen, I think that says a lot more about Detroit than it does about New York. Absolutely. So, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but you got to go with Detroit. I'm sure they're not very pleased with their performance or the way that things occurred last week. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Lions in this one as well.
All right. Sam, Brian Burns having a big-time season out there for the Giants. Jackson Dart coming back. This one has upset written all over it.
No, I don't think so. I have 0% confidence that they're going to go and win on the road.
That's a good try.
Lions 10-point favorite. Give me Detroit.
All right, so we're all on Detroit in this game. We'll come back next week and we'll see how it goes. The huge game, Philadelphia and Dallas. Again, the Birds, they keep on winning. Dallas, I personally believe, is on the come up here. Lou, we'll start with you, and then we'll let the ladies battle it out as well. Who do you got, Philly and Dallas?
You know what? I'm going to go with you on this one. I'm going to say major upset.
That's right.
Cowboys can score on the Eagles. Cowboys win this week. I got nothing to lose, but I got a feeling. Look, this dysfunction in Philadelphia is weird. I've never seen this most strange 8-2 team in the history of the NFL. I'm going Cowboys.
Talk that talk, Lou. You talk that talk and preach it to Breland. Breland, go ahead and rebound here.
All right. Well, I'm going to say it wouldn't surprise me if this was a series split because it usually is a series split throughout history. So it's not going to be a surprise to me. That being said, I think this Eagles team is extremely talented, way more talented than this Dallas team. We've seen it over and over because they're winning ugly. And if you're able to win ugly, once you get this thing together and get it rolling, I think they should have no problem. Also, just a little fun fact for you guys. Somebody somewhere allowed them to wear the Kelly Greens in Dallas. Eagles undefeated in the Kelly Greens since they relaunched in 2023. So I'm going to go with the Birds until they prove me otherwise.
All right. So Breland kind of on the fence here, and she says that the jersey color is going to be what ultimately wins this game.
Well, juju.
Yeah. Sam.
I'm actually going with the Cowboys. I tend to be tough on them because until I see them string together a few wins. But the thing about Dak Prescott in particular, he has a streak that is really impressive. He has an 18-game home win streak against NFC East teams. I feel like the Cowboys should have beaten the Eagles week 1. I think their defense is much better than what they were in week 1, and I think this offense is one of the best in the league. So give me the Cowboys at home with the upset.
I love it. It almost feels like we're at least 3.75 all on the Cowboys here, Breland Moore. I don't hear a ton of confidence out of you that the Eagles can get this done. So share this. What are the keys to victory for your Eagles to win this game?
This offense needs to get it together. Jalen Hurts, I think, has done a really good job of managing games, and for the most part, with the exception of, the Green Bay game, he's done a really good job of taking care of the football. But they really need to get this offense going. It is concerning, and the defense can only carry them so much. So if they are finally able to get this thing rolling, we'll see how it goes.
Sam, will it be a shootout, or will the Dallas defense come to play against Philly as well?
Ooh, I don't know that it'll be a shootout, but I think it'll be maybe like a one-score game, like a 7-point game. I think the defense, though, I think they're feeling themselves a little bit. They needed that kind of performance that they had against the Raiders on Monday night. And again, I think with the emotion of losing a teammate, I thought this was a close-knit group before, but I think they're even closer now because of it. So I think it'll be a close game, but I think the defense will be up to the task come Sunday.
Lou, in a close game, a huge game, who do you trust more, Jalen or Dak?
Well, I don't know. I would probably go with Jalen Hurts on a close game, but I don't think this is going to be close. I think Cowboys win by a couple of scores. I do believe in the emotion, what's going on down there. I do believe that does play a role in how players play. And I just think this offense is going to put up points on the Eagles, something the Eagles haven't seen this year. And I think they're going to win.
You know what? I happen to believe that the Dallas Cowboys are going to win as well. And not only this week, but I think that the Dallas Cowboys are going on a run here. I believe that Dak Prescott, that offense with an improved defense, they're going to begin it this weekend by knocking off Breland Moore's Philadelphia Eagles and then just keep that train rolling week in and week out. Speaking of week in and week out, you can tune in to NFC B-East every single week on Fox Local in all of our markets. On behalf of this outstanding crew, I'm Chad Ricardo. We'll see you next week.